battery is dying, but we're gonna make it work. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a great day. If you haven't checked out my last video, I will link it up there, and I'll also put a link in the description. You can check it out. It's where I talk about all the movies that I watched in 2020. I also have a Bookstagram and Twitter, which you can follow me on if you want to see extra content. Oh, it's blinking. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all the shows that I watched in 2020. I won't be talking about the ones that I already talked about, which I will link up there and also put a link in the description. And most of them are on Netflix, so you can check them out there if you're interested. So let's get started. The first one is Unsolved Mystery. Now this is a Netflix documentary about unsolved cases of disappearances, murders, and paranormal activities. And this has been going on for a while before it came to Netflix. It was, I think it's about 14 seasons, I'm not sure, but you don't really have to watch the rest. You can just start with the Netflix show. It's very interesting, and of course it's a little dramatic, but the narrative alone wouldn't make for good TV, so you can give that a pass. What's great about this show is that, I mean, for me personally, I liked it because of the mysteries themselves, because these are real cases and real mysteries. Like, there are people out there who have gone missing, and there are families out there who never gotten the closure that they needed. It's fascinating and horrifying at the same time. And honestly, I can't really rate this because it's a documentary, but I highly recommend you check it out. Next up is Peaky Blinders. Now this is not on my list for the day, but I do want to mention it anyway because it's my favorite show of all time. I don't know anything else that can beat that, and I'm just gonna mention it in every video that I talk about. But if you don't know what it is, it's basically about the Shelby family in Birmingham. But if you want to know more, I did make a video going in depth about everything, all my thoughts and feelings, which I don't want to talk about here because that show is perfect. I honestly can't say anything bad about it, and seasons 2, 4, and 5 were like phenomenal, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's fun for the whole family, provided that your kids are over 18. So the next one is Watchmen, and this takes place 34 years after the events of the comic books. Now, you don't have to read the comics or go on Wikipedia and see what happened. You don't have to do any of that before starting the show. The show is basically a thing of itself. Everything you need to know will be explained, and so basically it's about a white supremacist group, the 7th Cavalry, who wage war against minorities and the police that enforce special reparations for the victims of racial injustice. And then the vigilantes are outcast during this time because of the violence that they had raged earlier. Now, I personally love the show. I was a big fan of it. Like, throughout the show, it was suspenseful, it was interesting, it was fascinating to watch. But the thing is, like, the ending is not for everybody. I do want to warn you. Although I did love it, I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea. So make sure, like, just know that going into it, but I would still recommend that you watch it. It was a 5 out of 5 for me. And also check out the soundtrack, it's pretty dope. And also this was created by Damon Lindelof, who also created Lost and The Leftovers. The next one is Inside the Criminal Mind. This is a 4-part series, and as the name suggests, it's about going inside the minds of criminals. So the 4 episodes are divided into 4 parts, basically talking about serial killers, cult leaders, kidnappers, and drug lords. The episodes are very informative, especially listening to experts on the field talking about why criminals do what they do, and whether, for example, like whether serial killers are born or bred, nature versus nurture. And you would think out of all these episodes, serial killers would be the fascinating one, but I was actually more intrigued about the kidnappers, because there were cases of women being locked up for over 20 years in small basements and only allowed food and water. They also talk about the Stockholm Syndrome and how it came about. Even the cult leaders episode was quite interesting. I mean, you hear about serial killers all the time, everybody's fascinated, but watching this, I kind of realized that there are there are other criminals just as evil and just as disturbed. Next up is Unorthodox. This is a miniseries about a 19-year-old Jewish woman living unhappily in an arranged marriage in an ultra-Orthodox community. The show received some negative backlash, saying that the community was represented very negatively. While I understand that, I think it's also important to mention that this is an experience of one woman and what happened to her, and it's not a reflection on an entire community, but just that one family. And this story is loosely based on a true story. The actor Shira Haas gave a fantastic performance as ST, and I really love the show. I highly recommend you watch it. I wish it was longer because there was some really interesting secondary characters that I would have loved to gotten to know more, but there was like not enough time. Nevertheless, I enjoyed ST's story, so I gave it a 4 out of 5. Next up is one of the most random things I watched, and that is Mismatch. It is an adaptation from the book When Dimple Met Rishi, and it is set in India, and it has an all-brown cast. It basically follows two teenagers, Dimple and Rishi. Rishi is very old school, and he wants his grandma to arrange a marriage for him, while Dimple is very millennial and she's an excellent coder, and she hates this arranged marriage. Like, her mom is always trying to get her married off to somebody. And then Rishi finds her through this marriage app, I think, that Dimple's mother put her without asking her. And then Dimple's mom kinda arranges for Rishi to meet Dimple when she goes off to this university that she's been wanting to go. And from there, it's a pretty cool story that follows after that. I don't wanna ruin it for you. I just go and watch it. And as a brown person, I'm telling you, the representation it was fun. It felt good to see people like me represented on screen and not just as secondary characters. I loved it. The show is pretty amazing. And I've never read the books, right? But I really want to now. The story itself is very beautiful, and the representation, y'all, it is on point from your culture, your traditions, your sexuality. And one of the best things they explored was Namrata's and Rishi's friendship, which was very well done. And Dimple is inherently flawed. She's not the perfect protagonist that you would want her to be, which is another thing that I loved with this show, because that's real life. She basically ruins someone's life in order to get ahead. The only thing I'm not a fan of is this dude who comes from America, and his storyline was very confusing and it wasn't really explored a lot, and I felt like he was only there to fulfill his duties at the end of the series. Which I'm not going to spoil, but it felt like that's all he was there for, because it never really made sense to me why he's there at all until that last scene in the finale. So that's it for all the shows that I watched. I'm currently watching Breaking Bad and The Queen's Gambit. The Queen's Gambit I actually finished, but I kind of want to watch it a second time before I give you my full thoughts on it. So that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.